Let's talk about what a software developer actually does in their day-to-day work and what does it mean for you if you were to ever become a software developer. So plan for today is I'm going to show you how an 8-hour day looks broken down into specific chunks into main categories. We'll talk a bit more about what those actually categories mean, and then we'll talk about how it evolves whenever you are becoming more senior in your role. So without further ado, let's just get right into it. First of all, let's talk about what does a software developer actually do split into our workday. First of all, we've got analysis, we've got reading, writing docs, we've got coding, and we've got communication. Let's start with the most boring one for anyone, which is communication. So as a software engineer, actually what you will be doing is be talking about a lot of things with a lot of people. About the things related to the code, about the things related to the architecture, to the customer, to the use case that you have. So there will be a lot of it. There will be meetings related to the Scrum, for example, stand-ups, some dailies, some other refinements, plannings of the work that you will be doing. You will not most likely be leading this work, but then you will be involved in those because you are part of the team. So unfortunately, you will not get rid of it. Then there will be quite a lot of written communication, whether it's emails, it's on Slack, Teams, or any other platform that is there to do. Because at the end of the day, we work with people and we need to make things clear. So it can be pretty annoying at first, all this communication, all those meetings, etc. But then at the end of the day, trust me, they are very, very useful. And the better you're at communication, actually, the better programmer you are, because you can really precisely say what you mean and waste a little time whenever we're talking about communication. So make sure that your communication skills are good and don't neglect those because they are very, very important in your day-to-day job. Second of all, it's going to be reading and writing documentation. So whenever we are talking about using any software, right? If it's a good software, we will get some documentation for it. But if it's bad software, we will not get any documentation and we'll go into the analysis part that we'll talk in just about a second. But let's be honest, whenever we are talking about any sort of documentation, we'll need to, first of all, need to learn how to read it and then how to write it. Because at the end of the day, we are also producing code, meaning that we'll need to write out some documentation so that other people can use our software. Without it, it will be very annoying. And you will get to learn how annoying and frustrating it is to use software that does not have proper documentation in place. So you will most likely spend some time writing out some technical specifics and other stuff for your software as you go in a company. And then the biggest chunk of your day that is being spent every day is going to be analysis. Because it's always better to spend more time reading through things, analyzing how it looks. What is the customer case? How does it fit with current code? How does it fit with the architecture? Will it break something? What to test? How to test it? Do we need some more information? Do we need more input? All those things go into analysis. And before you start writing the code, you first need to structure it. Like, what are going to be the classes? What will I need? What is actually in the ticket, in the task that I'm actually working on right now that I need to fix? What are all these steps that I need to do to actually write out my code? Because let's be perfectly honest, writing code is super hard. But getting to know what kind of code to write and in what manner is even harder. Because I would say that we spend much more time on it. I would say that for analysis, you will spend, most realistically speaking, 3 hours. When I'm talking about analysis, I mean going to a whiteboard, talking to other people about stuff. So this is going to be their communication time. And thinking things through, doing a brainstorming or any sort of things like that, that go into analysis and into creating a proper solution. And then, of course, we've got the coding part. So the most fun. Actually, coding is super, super hard to do. You need an uninterrupted amount of time. For example, 2 or 3 hours during the day. If you code 3 hours a day, like non-stop coding during the day for 3 hours, then you are a very good programmer and you know how to manage your time. Because you need to really have a chance to go into this deep work mode so that you do not get interrupted, you can write out things, you do not lose your train of thought. And actually, I'll say in the beginning, it would be around 2 hours per day that you spend on pure coding because you will have much more questions about how to write stuff, how to properly fit within the code that is within the company, and how to make it readable for other people. This will consume most of your time, but writing code itself is going to be maybe 2 hours. So as you become senior, those things of course change. You spend much more time on reading documentation, writing documentation, on communication and on analysis. And actually this coding time can shrink a little bit, but it kind of depends on the type of person that you are. I would say that it can go two ways. It can go more in the way of architecturing stuff and making it better, or maybe doing it on a lower level of the code itself, that you are then writing out the code, you are writing out the stuff, and you are refactoring big chunks of code that you are getting lost into for 2 months or more, if your product manager allows it, which is not often the case. I'm a product manager myself, and it's very costly to do so. So it's better to not have technical depth in your product at all. However, I would say that as you get more senior in your role, then there's less code you actually do, and you spend more time talking about stuff, but then you don't need as much time to code because you know exactly what you're doing and you don't need to really go through all this stuff, right? So yeah, there's quite a lot during the programmer day. I will go deeper into the specific topics in later videos, but I wanted to just give you an overview of a whole day that is going on as a programmer, because maybe counterintuitively, you don't spend a lot of time coding as a programmer because it is, first of all, tiring, and second of all, we really need to make sure that we know what we are writing and why to fit it perfectly. So with that being said, thank you very much and see you in the next video.